All right, there we go. All right, what's up, guys? VV back with another video. That's right, and today we got a truck topic style video. I want to go over some things in the game that I had a problem with when I first got into One Piece. We're going to go over some of my biggest issues that I had with the One Piece trading card game. Now, for you guys listening, I would love to know what your biggest problems are with the game. It could be just one problem, it could be multiple problems, it could be whatever, right? Or is the game just perfect for you? You know, that's fine as well. But today, I don't want it to come across as like a negative, like, frustrated video or anything like that. In fact, I think it's kind of a video that's going to end off in a good way, because it has to do with how Bandai, I think, has been addressing some of the issues that I had with the game. But yeah, again, guys, if y'all have any issues with the game that I do not already cover in this video, by all means, say something in the comment section below, because I'd love to know where the community stands on, where they see the One Piece trading card game. You know, if you're a newer player, what do you think about it? If you're an older player, what are your issues with it and all that stuff? So we're going to be going over some issues, 3 issues that I had with this game when I first got into it, and some still exist today. So let's do this, guys. Let's get right into it. I will have everything time-stamped in the general description, and I'll have all relevant links and stuff like that in the comment section below. If you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please do not hesitate to put those down in the comment section below, or hop on the VV Theory Discord. Link will be in the channel description. This video is brought to you by Nin Garden. Pre-orders are now open for the Journey's End playmat featuring the Pirate King, with a 1 in 20 chance to pull the special Wanted Bounty variant. Plus, the Chaos and Crown collection, including the Berserk and Absolute Ruler playmats, are available at a discounted price. Nin Garden is also introducing their new soft cloth hybrid playmats, now available with select designs. And don't forget to use the code TheVVTheory at the checkout to get 8% off on your next order. Now, let's do this, guys. I've got 3 different points we're going to be going over today. The first topic that I had a real issue with, it was the first thing I had a very, very serious issue with, I think. It was being behind the East. I come from Magic the Gathering. My TCG roots come all the way back to Magic the Gathering. And I started playing that in 2008, but I had been kind of like looking at it and like, watching it from afar before I got into trading card games for way before then, right? I had known about Magic when it first came out. In fact, I can remember some of my earliest memories. This is funny. Some of my earliest memories are of me going to this Target down the road from where I lived with my mom, and seeing these card packs of Magic the Gathering. And I was like, oh man, Mom, I want those. And she was like, no, not happening, right? Because it said Magic on there, and I come from like the Bible Belt down here in Florida in the South, and grew up Southern Baptist. So that was like, wait, what's that called? Magic the Gathering? Absolutely not, son. Sorry, not happening. So yeah, that's some of my earliest memories. Good times, nothing bad, just saying. But over time, I ended up getting into Magic the Gathering and actually playing it in 2008. That's when I started playing Magic the Gathering. And I have to say, like, the whole concept of being behind somewhere else in the world or being ahead of someone else in the world, it made no sense to me. I didn't even understand that. So, like, I quit playing card games probably around 2015. I took a break from it and played on and off, I guess, from then, all the way up to about probably 2019, 2018, and then I just checked out for a while, right? So when I got back into card games, it was 2023. I had been gone for a while. It had been about 4 or 5 years, and in that time period, Bandai had kind of taken over the card scene, I guess, or something. I don't know. You guys tell me. Like I said, I wasn't playing anything. But whatever had happened, when I started playing again, this whole concept of being behind with the releases, that was crazy to me. Like, that was absolute crazy talk. I was like, what do you mean we're behind? And then come to find out, they were like, yeah, well, it's been like that for the longest time with like Yu-Gi-Oh and what's it called, Pokemon. And I was like, well, that's nice and all, but I'm not okay with that. That's not really my thing. So that was actually my first ever major issue with the One Piece trading card game. And the good news about that is, look what Bandai's doing. They're going to have us caught up with the rest of the world by April next year, I believe, April 2026. So that's like that's a good thing, right? So one major massive issue I had with the game, it looks like Bandai is doing everything in their power to catch us up and fix that. So that's check, that's going to be off of my my list, right? That's going to be a major problem that no longer exists for me once we're caught up. Okay, so that's good, right? That's good news. And again, I'm not going to harp on this for too long, but it was really crazy to me. I'm not going to lie, where I was like, wait, what do you mean we're behind? Because I even look at other games that are like from smaller Bandai's a massive company, right? So is Pokemon, so is Konami. It makes no sense to me. I think like I'm not going to get into the moral and ethical side of things, but it doesn't seem right to me. It does not seem right. Because then you look at like Magic, yeah, that's a massive game, right? That's the first ever big, like, you know, TCG or whatever. But here's the thing, look at a game even like Flesh and Blood, which is from a very small studio, right? I think it's called Legend Story Studios, LSS. I always mess it up. It's either LLS or LSS, whatever it is. They're a way smaller company than Bandai, and they can have global releases as soon as they come out. You know, it just doesn't make sense. It never sat right with me. I didn't like that. And coming from someone who's a deck builder, like I'm someone who likes to build my own decks. Well, when I get a hand-me-down set, there's nothing left to build. You know, the entire format is figured out. So the time period where, you know, we would be experimenting with these new decks, it's already done. The East has already done that, and then we get what's left over, what's handed me down, or you know, all the hand-me-downs. And here you go. Here's your format already figured out. Have fun. It's just whatever you see, there's what you get. And you know, there's always room for some exceptions. Obviously, one rogue deck might pop up from time to time, but it's pretty rare. Anyone who follows the competitive scene, it's pretty rare. And that did, by the way, have a heavy pull on me not even wanting to be competitive in the One Piece trading card game, like, you know, as far as the competitive scene goes. It's like a major advantage that a rogue deck builder like myself has is I want to be able to go into a format where no one knows what's going on yet, and I come in with a deck that's actually pretty well, you know, tuned, pretty fine-tuned, and it's ready to go. So the fact that we were behind the East, I feel like that just completely got rid of all those possibilities. But we'll see what happens. You know, we're going to be caught up with the East now in April 2026. At least that's what they're saying, or sometime around that time period. So that'd be really nice if we get caught up. And then who knows? Maybe at that point, and I have another point we're going to go over here in a minute. If some things change, maybe at that point I'll choose to get more competitive in the game and start going to tournaments and stuff like that. Okay, so that was the first point, talking about getting caught up with the East. The second point was availability / affordability, right? When I first got into the game, it was in set 2. And the game, you could not find it anywhere, right? The game was so popular, so that was like a good thing, right? It was actually a pretty good thing, you know, in a lot of ways. But the game was so popular, good luck trying to find any product. And because of that, that drove up the affordability, or I guess it drove down the affordability, right? It was very hard to afford the game. It was way too expensive because you couldn't find the cards anywhere. You know, there was only so many cards that had been printed at this point, and so many people who want to play the game, the supply could not match the demand. I mean, it could, but you know, it was starting to push the price up of product quite a bit. So that was a major issue with me at first. Now things have changed. I will say this. I think things have changed now for the better. Most things are way more affordable now. Yes, there's still some issues. It's hard to find things on the shelf all the time, but it's way better than what it used to be. And I think the greatest reflection of that, or the best way to see that it is that way right now, is if you look at the cost of cards. I was on stream last night, and I was actually, a new player hopped in, and they were talking over in the chat, and they were like, you know, what's an affordable deck I can get into the game with right now? And I gave him a bunch of suggestions, obviously, but then I started thinking about it, and I even mentioned it in the chat, and I was like, you know, currently, at the time you're recording this, who knows what happens in the future, but currently at the time you're recording this, you can build every single deck in the game right now, like, for under $200 USD. The only exception is like Red Blue Ace. And okay, so other than that one deck, pretty much every other option you want to build is just around 200 or under. And if you want to include Ace, okay, let's just say 300 and under. That's actually a very, very good price point for any kind of game to be at, right? Like that's really good. That's really solid. For those who are not aware, when I left, guys, when I stopped playing Magic the Gathering, which was around 2012, I want to say, 2012, 2013. It was around the time Hearthstone popped up. I think it was 2013. When I stopped playing Magic the Gathering, the deck that I was running was like a $1,200 deck. You know what I mean? That was, excuse me. That deck, it was solid. It was a white-blue control deck. It had all the right, the lands that came to life, that you could attack with and everything. It was a solid deck. I'm not complaining about that. But that was pretty expensive. And I was like, okay, this is way too much. And at that point, that was the time that I kind of quit playing trading card games for a while because I thought they were too expensive. And I did start playing Hearthstone because you could just play that online digitally and have fun with it. And you can even get a lot of stuff for free on there. So what was I saying with all this? Where was I going? Oh, so expensive. So with One Piece, if the most expensive deck in the entire game right now is just under $300 USD, okay, I'm not really going to complain too much about that. Excuse me. Especially when there are other, even more affordable options out there that are probably equally as competitive. Like Emu right now. I think that deck might cost like $40. Someone tell me in the comment section below how much Emu costs right now. Because the only super expensive cards in there are the 5 Elders, the SR, the 10 cost 5 Elders, and I think Stussy, if you're even running that. I don't think everyone's even running that card. So that deck is insanely affordable and absolutely top tier, like in S tier for sure. So you have that. Green Zoro, I think, is under $100 now. Even Silver's Rayleigh is under $100 now. We'll see if that deck can stay competitive going into Block 4. But still, the point is the game's very affordable. That's the whole point. Whereas when excuse me guys, sorry, my allergies are acting up. But whereas when I first got into this game, there were some serious issues with affordability. Like there was, so I got into the game in set 2. And when set 3 came out, that's when the yellow cards came in, and that was before we knew that Bandai was going to do any reprints. So by set 4, okay, again, so set 1, so block 1 is sets 1 through 4. Sorry if that's a little confusing for the newer players out there, or the newer listeners. I didn't get into the game in set 1. I didn't know about the game really just yet by set 1, but I got into the game in set 2, right? So set 2 is when they introduced black into the game, the color black. And then set 3 is when they introduced yellow into the game. That was when the yellow color got into the game. And then by set 4, so right before we get into block 2, some of those yellow cards had become astronomically priced, right? Like I think that was when we saw our first, in block 1, I believe. Someone correct me in the comment section below if I'm off on this. But even in block 1, we saw cards that were starting to graze the $100 price, threshold. We had 8 cost yellow Katakuri jumped up to like $80, $85 USD. There was a promo Jinbei. We're going to talk about promos in just a minute. There was a promo Jinbei that was in a blue Doflamingo deck. That thing was going for like $85 to $100 when a deck had just one. So of course everyone, started buying it up, and it was a promo, so it was really expensive. Excuse me, guys. But hear me out. The game had become very, very expensive. So, and there was, there was limited availability. The game was not very affordable, and there even the black navy decks. Those were super expensive as well. Borsalinos, I think, were like $40. It was an absolute madhouse at first in the early stages of the game for One Piece. But it was never too crazy. It was still doable, but it was getting out of hand. And Bandai, tightened up on the reins, or however that expression goes. They really pulled back and said, nope, okay, we're going to bring everything back into line here, and we're going to make the game more affordable. That's when they printed the PRB01 set with all these much needed reprints. And they introduced the idea of rotations, which was a big deal. Okay, so here we are. We're on 2 points here, where the first one, like I said, being behind in the East, okay, they're catching us up. The availability and affordability, they're fixing that, at least to some extent. They're doing a decent job, right? Yeah, they could do better. There's room for improvement, but I would say they're at least doing a pretty decent job at it, right? One more thing we have to talk about on this point before we move on to the final point is promos. So I have a real issue with promos in this game. That's another thing that was just a totally foreign concept for me when I got into TCGs back in Magic the Gathering. There were no promos. I mean, there were promo alternate art cards. One second. There were, excuse me, guys. There were promo alternate art cards for Magic stuff like DCPI or what it was called. I can't remember. It was like DCPI. I think that was what it was called. There were like these special cards you could get, and that was fine because there was those special alt arts, and then there was just the normal stuff everyone else could play with. Well, in One Piece, there are cards. Excuse me. There are cards that you can only get from starter decks and from promo packs. That for me is just a recipe for disaster. I'm hoping that moving forward, Bandai will nip that in the bud. That needs to be gone, in my personal opinion. I think the promo stuff in this game should be reserved for special cool looking alt arts. So that way we can get all of the cards we need from the actual sets, right? Like, let's just say, for this example, the way that I think Bandai should do it, let's just say, okay, what are we in right now? OP13? All right, cool. So there's this 10 Elders card, or this 10 cost 5 Elders card that everyone likes, you know, for Emu. It's a super powerful card. Okay, well, that card costs around, I think it's right under $5 USD right now at the time you're recording this. Well, in the future, let's make a promo for that card that we can already get our hands on at a pretty affordable price. Don't give us a promo like the 8 cost Roger where it's only available through the promo. It just seems like a terrible idea, especially when it's a card that's like like meta defining, I'll say. Maybe not meta defining, but when it's a card as impactful as 8 cost promo Roger is. That card is just absolutely insane, right? And Blue Purple Luffy basically needs it if they want to compete. That's just not how I think promos should be. Excuse me, guys, my allergies are acting up. The way that I think promos should be is either one of two things. Either one, like I said, make it be a promo of a card we already have access to, where we can get the base version for, you know, cheaper, make it, you know, it's still affordable. So that's the number one way to do it. And the number two way to do it is make promos where they're like vanilla cards. If you want to make a promo vanilla card, excuse me, I guess that could even have its own situations, but I don't think it'd be that bad. Whatever. Oh, a third thing they could do as well is make it where promos are not tournament legal. If they're going to make promos extremely exclusive, like Young Girl, I don't know if we're even going to get Young Girl over here in the West, guys. That's the card that Blue Yellow Nami uses over in the East. I don't even know if we're going to get that promo. There's no telling. Who knows? Maybe they'll release it in a future set. Well, by that time, might be too late to even mess with it. You know, who knows when they're going to release it? And imagine this too, guys. Currently, there are cards available in the East that are not available in the West, like promos. And what's going to happen when we get caught up with the East? Are those cards going to be banned because not every area has access to these promos that could be potentially beneficial? I just think that's a terrible idea. And let me just wrap up the whole promo idea with this. I hope moving forward, Bandai goes far, far away from this promo idea they're on currently. Make promos something that's either A, not tournament legal, where we don't have to worry about it, it's more of a collector thing. B, make it where it's just vanillas, where it's not that, you know, it's not too bad, and it should even drive the price down. It shouldn't be like, you know, a super impactful card in the meta. Or C, make it where it's a card that we already all can get from a normal set. So yeah, that's kind of my thing on that. And one more thing I do want to say about promos is it's the same thing with these starter decks. I'm not a huge fan of how Bandai will print exclusive cards in starter decks. It's like, well, wait a minute. Sorry guys, people are honking over here. It's like these starter decks are supposed to be for the new players, not the veterans. But guess what? Every veteran's going to buy a full, you know, buy 2 of each starter deck to get the full play sets of the cards they need. I think they should probably work on that in the future. But all things considered, again, going back to what I was saying, the main point of point 2 here is the availability and affordability of the game. It's at a pretty good point right now, right? I think Bandai's doing a pretty good job there. Okay, last but not least, we got my third point here, and that has to do with tournament cap. Like tournament, you know, attendance size or whatever you want to call that, like where they cap the amount of people that can go to these tournaments. And then also no sideboard. We'll talk about that. Best of 3 / no sideboard stuff. So the first part is the tournament cap. Bandai caps most of their tournaments, I think, anywhere between 512 players and 1,024 players. There have been bigger tournaments in the past for One Piece, I understand, but I think most tournaments are pretty much capped in those 2 areas. That's very frustrating because someone like myself, I want to be able to sign up for a tournament if I think I can go around the time that the tournament's about to start. So in other words, you can't do that in this game. So if you want to go to a tournament, at least generally speaking, things may have changed. You guys tell me if things have changed on this in the comment section below. I don't know. But when I first got into the game, if you wanted to go to a tournament, you had like a 1-second window to sign up. It might have been a 1-minute window to sign up, and then that thing was, boom, it was gone. It was taken up immediately, and sorry, you're out of luck. You know, maybe you can go to the venue and try to get in last minute if you wanted to. Well, guys, having 2 kids and like back then when I first got into the game. I had a full-time job as a teacher, and I'm doing the content creation thing. It's like, nah, that's not going to work for me. And in fact, I even went to a tournament in Kissimmee, Florida, down by Orlando, and I went to a big tournament there just to hang out with my locals. A lot of my locals were down there at that tournament, so just to kind of be there as like support and meet people, because at the time I think I was like at somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 subscribers, and it was cool getting to meet some people who watch my channel. And guys, I went down there, a 2-hour trip south of where I live, and they were trying to turn me away at the door. I'm like, I'm just here to spectate. I don't need to play. You know, I'm just here to spectate. They're like, well, we're out of spectator passes. I got very fortunate that there was a Magic the Gathering tournament happening in the same venue that had not sold out. So I paid to get in as a Magic the Gathering spectator just to watch the One Piece games. That was a nightmare. That like kind of, I don't want to say like traumatized me or anything, but that definitely turned me off to the competitive scene in the One Piece trading card game indefinitely. Like, I was like, forever, right? I was like, no, I'm sorry. Now I have no interest in even going to these events because of the way they're run, because of the cap limit you have on these tournaments, what's going on there, and just everything about it just left a very bad, disgusting taste in my mouth, right? So I'm hoping that Bandai can fix that, because from what I understand, I didn't go to big tournaments in Magic the Gathering. When I was playing Magic, guys, I was in college, and I just had 2 children. So like from the time I started playing Magic, I was in college, to the time I ended playing Magic, I had 2 kids. I had no time to go to big tournaments. It was just not in the cards for me. Yeah, that was a crazy time in my life. But like, here we are now, I'm still pretty busy, and I barely have time to go to big tournaments like that. But I don't want to have to like sign up immediately, be waiting on my computer to click on like go in and like do it. It's just not a good look, right? It's just not a good thing. Whereas like, okay, I kind of got off there, guys. Sorry, going back to One Piece now. I was talking about Magic with their tournament, so I don't know how big their big tournaments were. But I've heard that Yu-Gi-Oh! And One Piece tournaments, there is no cap limit. You just show up and you play. It could be like a 2,000 plus player tournament. Well, why can't Bandai do that? I don't understand. Like, why is that not an option for Bandai? Does anyone know? Say in the comment section below. I'm asking because I legitimately don't know. Why is it that a game like, what's it called? Like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, they can have a 2,000 plus player tournament, but One Piece is stuck at 512? How does that happen? I don't understand. I don't get that. And the same thing, you know, or 1,000 players is like a big tournament for One Piece nowadays. Why is that? Because from what I understand, I don't think Riftbound's going to have that problem. Riftbound is a brand new game coming out, right? I don't think they're going to have limitations on their tournaments. I could be wrong about that. Someone correct me in the comment section below if you know more about this stuff. But yeah, I just think that Bandai is like, guys, One Piece is doing good enough. You need to make the venues bigger or something where you can open up the attendance for everyone. I'm just hoping there hasn't been too much damage done. A lot of people are moving to other games now. Not trying to, you know, be alarmist or anything, but I'm saying a lot of people are going over to Riftbound. A lot of people went over to Gundam. A lot of people are moving all around to different games. And I feel like One Piece had this opportunity to be this next massive tournament game where there was just thousands, plural, of people at these tournaments, like 2,000, 3,000 player tournaments. People would have loved to go on to that, and that would have been an awesome experience. And hey, if I hear there's gonna be 2,000 or 3,000 players at a tournament as a content creator, yeah, I'm probably gonna go to that now. Even if I'm not going there to play, I might just go there to be a part of that event. So it's just something that I think Bandai really dropped the ball on early on. I feel like they really goofed with that, because now I think tournament attendance has gone down a little bit. And I don't know, you guys tell me, maybe I'm off on that, but I think the last time I saw a tournament that was down here in, you know, down here by where I live in Florida, I think it was, you know, plenty of room to sign up late. So we'll have to see what happens there. But the other thing I have to talk about tournaments, and this is something, I think I might have referenced it earlier in this video, if they were to change a few things about tournaments, maybe one day I'd consider getting into them if they, you know, once they catch us up with the East, is sideboards. So I get the question all the time, what is a sideboard? So for the newer players out there or the newer listeners, a sideboard is something that exists in a card game. It's typically reserved for a best of 3 or best of whatever format where there's multiple games you have to play against the same opponent. And it's extra cards you have access to in between games. So for example, in Magic the Gathering, you have a 60 card deck. That is your main deck. and then you have a 15-card sideboard. Those are your sideboard options. After game 1, you get access to those. You get access to those 15 cards to put into the deck. So in other words, if you're going against an aggro matchup and you lose your first game, no problem. I'll take out like 10 of these cards and then put in 10 cards from my sideboard that help me against that matchup. That works out very well in a best of 3 or more. Best of 3, best of 5, best of 7, whatever. But in a best of 1, you can't do that. Well, luckily for us, there's a game that already exists called Flesh and Blood, and from what I understand, I think Bandai also did this with a previous version of Dragon Ball. So someone help me out in the comment section below on that as well. I'm not sure, but I think Bandai's already experienced the best of 1 format pre-sideboarding with another one of their games, Dragon Ball Z or whatever it's called, or Dragon Ball, whatever it's called. Well, one thing I think Bandai really needs to improve their tournament scene. There's other things too. I forgot to mention this, guys, the quality of their streams. I think they're going to start improving them soon, but the quality of their streams or of their tournaments, like some of them aren't even streamed. And some of them that are streamed are just very low production costs. It's kind of embarrassing, to be completely honest, guys. I'm not trying to be rude or mean or disrespectful, but it's a little bit embarrassing considering what we're seeing from like Flesh and Blood, Riftbound, Magic, you name it, from every other TCG. Pokemon can even see the prize cards. What if we had that in One Piece, guys, where we could see the cards in life? I think that'd be kind of cool. Anyway, that's something that for One Piece to work on, though. You know, the tournament cap size, the production level of their streams for these big major tournaments. Now in the East, they look good. I'm talking about in the West. And then last but not least, number 3, I think they need to introduce this pre-sideboard idea, where I was just about to talk about how Flesh and Blood, they're always a best of 1. If they have a world championship, which I think they just had at the time of recording this, they already had their world championship. It is a best of 1 in the finals. Best of 1. There's no best of 3. It's like, oh, well, how does that work? Well, they have 60 card decks in that game as well. And the way things work is, you know, for a best of 1 for a sideboard, they have what's called a card pool. So in that game, you have an 80 card pool. Okay, so in other words, you have 80 cards for your deck. It's like your main deck. But here's what happens is when you sit down across the table from your opponent, you guys both reveal your leaders. In that game, it's called a hero. You both reveal your leaders, and you go, okay, and you take 20 cards out of your deck, the 20 cards you don't need for that matchup. You see how it's a pre-done sideboard, right? And then you guys roll to see who goes first, and you go from there. And that is what One Piece needs to do. I've heard people say like, well, no, I want there to be best of 3. And that's fine. I mean, best of 3, I guess, you know, if they introduce a sideboard, I'm okay with the best of 3, but I'm not a big fan of it either, because I think One Piece's pacing is just absolutely incredible, guys. I love the pacing that One Piece has. Because hear me out. Best of 1 format, you go to your tournaments, guys, it's like a 35-minute round. Whereas if you go to these best of 3 formats, it's probably going to be a 45 to 55-minute round. No thanks. I'm good on that, right? Like, think about it. If you have 30-minute rounds, or let's just someone's car alarm's going off, guys. My apologies. Is it going to keep going? I think it's the bus, too. That was weird. It was like a school bus over here. I'm at my son's school waiting for him to get out. Anyway, if you go to a tournament and the rounds are only 30 minutes long, guess what? 5-round tournament, 2.5 hours. Cool, we're good. If you go to a tournament where the rounds are 50 minutes long, 5 rounds, over 4 hours. No thanks. I'm good. Like that. You can miss me with that. That is, I love that One Piece is a best of 1, but I just think it needs to be improved on ever so slightly. I think they need to make it where we have a pre-sideboard. Okay, that's about all I got for you guys today. Tell me what y'all think in the comment section below. Let's be nice. Some of these topics can be a little bit, you know, interesting to talk about. Let's be nice in the comment section below. That's what I always ask. And guys, please also tell me in the comment section below your biggest problems with the One Piece trading card game. What are some of the big problems you have? You know, things I may not have already mentioned on, you know, in today's points. What are some other issues that you have so I can try to focus on those? But yeah, that's about all I got for y'all today. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, number 1, being behind the East. Number 2, availability and affordability. And number 3, tournament caps. Yeah, we're good. All right, we're done. All right, I hope y'all enjoyed, guys. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.